You are not stuck because life is cruel. You are stuck because you keep holding on to what is already gone. Pause. Let that echo. Everywhere you look, you see people clutching the past, clutching memories, clutching people who left long ago. We cling to comfort. We cling to pain. We cling even to chains. Why? Because letting go feels like death. And in a way, it is. The end of a chapter. The death of an old self. The burial of a world that will never return. But here's the secret that nobody tells you. Growth is impossible without death. A seed cannot become a tree unless it first rots in the soil. A snake cannot continue its journey unless it sheds its skin. And you, yes, you, cannot step into your highest self while dragging the corpses of your past behind you. Think of the people you've met who cannot move on. The friend who still obsesses over the breakup from 3 years ago. The man who still blames his parents for every failure in his life. The woman who keeps replaying the betrayal of someone who has long forgotten her. They are not living in the present. They are trapped in ghosts, and ghosts do not let you grow. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Letting go is not forgetting. Letting go is not weakness. Letting go is reclaiming your power from what no longer deserves it. So I ask you now, what are you still holding on to? A love that has already turned to dust? A mistake that cannot be undone? A dream that has already shown you it will not come true? Listen carefully. Your growth is not waiting for more chances. Your growth is waiting for your release. Like a prisoner clutching the bars of his own cell, you are free, yet you refuse to walk out. Why? Because pain is familiar, because sorrow is comfortable, because fear whispers that without your chains, you will be nothing. But imagine for a moment, if you unclench those fists, if you stop dragging the past behind you, what weight would lift from your shoulders? What space would open inside your chest? What new life could finally breathe into you? The truth is simple and yet terrifying. To hold on is safe. To let go is dangerous, but only in danger do we grow. And so the question that begins our journey is this: will you keep holding on to what no longer serves you, or will you risk the death of the old to be reborn into the new? Listen closely, because this is where the knife cuts deeper. We live in an age of abundance, yet almost everyone feels empty. We scroll endlessly but find no meaning. We chase everything, yet lose ourselves in the process. And at the center of this chaos lies a brutal truth. We do not know how to let go. We cannot let go of people who have already walked away. We cannot let go of situations that ended years ago. We cannot let go of an identity that has already expired. So we live like prisoners in our own stories. Think about your own life. How many nights have you lost sleep replaying old conversations, words that cannot be unsaid, arguments that should have ended but still haunt you? How many mornings have you opened your eyes already heavy with yesterday's weight? Every thought is a chain. Every regret is a lock. Every fear is a wall you build higher with your own hands. And modern life only makes it worse. On social media, you see the highlight reels of people who left you behind. You see their smiles, their vacations, their so-called perfect lives, while you are still clutching the pain of their absence. You compare yourself not to their truth, but to their illusion. And in this comparison, you die a little every day. Seneca once wrote, It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And nothing wastes life more than obsession with the past. Imagine this with me. A man sits by a fire holding a burning coal. The coal sears his hand, burning through his skin, filling him with agony. But he refuses to drop it. Why? Because he tells himself, "This was once my source of warmth. This once kept me alive." And so he holds on, even as the coal destroys him. That man is us. We hold on to the very things that burn us. The people who left, the insults thrown, the failures endured. We justify our pain as proof of loyalty, as proof of strength, as proof of love. But in truth, it is proof of weakness. We mistake suffering for virtue. We confuse endurance with growth. But enduring poison does not make you stronger. It makes you sick. Look around. Why do so many people feel stuck in jobs they hate? Because they cannot let go of the illusion of stability. Why do so many people remain in toxic relationships? Because they cannot let go of the fear of being alone. Why do so many people drown in regret? Because they cannot let go of the fantasy of what could have been. And so, we create prisons, golden cages, chains disguised as comfort. We call them love, career, identity, tradition. But at the core, they are attachments. Attachments that choke us. Attachments that starve our souls. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it." But we could replace the word anger with attachment. How much more grievous are the consequences of holding on than the reasons we held on in the first place? Pause here. Breathe. Feel it. You know this truth already. It sits in your chest, in the pit of your stomach. That one person you keep thinking of. That one mistake you replay. That one dream you can't admit has already died. It's not the memory itself that hurts you. It's your refusal to release it. It's the grip, the clench, the unwillingness to open your hand. And so the modern struggle is not distraction. It is not technology. It is not even other people. The true struggle is attachment. And until you learn to cut it away, you will never grow beyond the prison of yourself. Because here is the paradox. The more you cling, the more you lose. The more you hold on, the more slips through your fingers, and in trying to keep everything, you end up with nothing. That is the disease of our time, not poverty, not lack, but the inability to let go. Because not every prison has a key, every storm has an eye, every weight has a release. And the ancients, the Stoics, knew this truth better than anyone. They lived in a world of chaos no less brutal than ours. Empires crumbling, wars raging, betrayals, diseases, sudden death. A world where tomorrow was never promised, and today could be snatched in an instant. Yet they lived free, not because they escaped the chaos, not because they controlled their circumstances, but because they mastered the art of letting go. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, ruler of millions, every morning, he reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Why would the most powerful man in the world repeat this to himself? Because he understood. Power, wealth, even life itself, none of it truly belongs to us. We are only visitors here, borrowers. To cling to what is borrowed is to invite misery. Seneca, once exiled, once ordered to take his own life by the Emperor Nero, wrote with serenity, "He who has learned how to die has unlearned how to be a slave." What does this mean? It means freedom begins the moment you stop clutching to what you cannot keep, even life itself. Epictetus, once a slave, chained and beaten, declared, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself can overpower my will." His body could be broken, but his mind, detached, free, unshakable, was untouchable. But let me bring this closer, not ancient, modern. Imagine this scene. A young man loses the love of his life. She walks away. No explanation, no closure. For months, he clings to her memory, stalks her photos, replays the laughter in his mind. He stops eating, stops living. The world passes by, and he is stuck in yesterday's shadow. One day, he stumbles across Marcus Aurelius. He reads, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. It pierces him. He realizes she is gone. The harm he feels is not her leaving, but his refusal to let go. And in that moment, he doesn't stop loving her. He stops clinging, and he breathes. For the first time in months, he feels air in his lungs. That was the Stoic weapon. Or another story. A man loses his business. Everything he built, gone overnight. He clings to the identity of the successful man, replaying the collapse every single day. Shame eats him alive. But then he reads Epictetus. Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well. He sits with that truth. He realizes the business is gone, but he is still here. The story he clings to is dead, but the next chapter is unwritten. And so he lets go, not of effort, not of dreams, but of attachment to what was already over. In letting go, he finds not despair, but freedom. This is the Stoic sword. It cuts through the illusions we cling to. It slices away the attachments that bind us. It reminds us that nothing is ours, that everything can leave, that freedom is not found in holding tighter, but in opening the hand. The Stoics turned letting go into an art. They turned detachment into strength, not coldness, not indifference, but clarity. Because to let go is not to stop caring. It is to care with freedom, to love without chains, to live without fear. And when you wield this weapon, the world changes. The betrayals no longer shatter you. The failures no longer define you. The losses no longer drown you, because you are no longer a prisoner of what you cannot keep. Part 2 showed you the disease. Part 3 has given you the cure. But the story doesn't end here, because wisdom without practice is just poetry. So in Part 4, we go deeper into the battlefield of life, where Stoic philosophy becomes survival tactics, where letting go becomes not just an idea, but a daily war. Letting go is one of the hardest things we will ever do, not because it is complicated, but because it demands courage. We cling to what we know even when it no longer serves us, because the unknown feels terrifying. A toxic friend, a failed relationship, a job that drains us, an old identity. We hold on not out of love or purpose, but out of fear. Fear of the void, fear of standing empty-handed. But the Stoics remind us of a profound truth. Life itself is change. Heraclitus once wrote, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man." Everything flows. To resist this current is to drown in sorrow. To move with it is to grow. Think of your own life. How many things you once thought were forever are now just memories? Friendships that faded, dreams that shifted. Even the person you were 5 years ago no longer exists. Change is not the exception. It is the law of existence, and letting go is how we participate in that law instead of fighting it. But here's the paradox. Letting go feels like loss, yet it is actually space creation. Picture your hand clenched into a fist, tight, refusing to release. In this state, nothing new can enter. Now, open your palm. The same hand that once held on desperately is now free, ready to receive, ready to grasp something new. Nature gives us the clearest example. In autumn, trees release their leaves. They don't fight the process. They don't cling to what once gave them shade and beauty. They surrender because they trust the seasons. And only through this shedding can spring bring new life. In the same way, we must release old attachments to allow new opportunities, new people, new growth to enter our lives. True courage is not found in holding on to what is crumbling. It is found in releasing even when our hearts shake, even when our minds whisper, "What if nothing comes next?" The Stoics would answer, something always comes next. Life abhors emptiness. When we create space, life fills it with growth, with wisdom, with strength. Remember, the weight you refuse to put down is the very thing keeping you from rising. Letting go is not weakness. It is an act of supreme strength. When we let go, something remarkable happens. Freedom enters. At first, the process feels like breaking apart. Our chest feels heavy, our mind resists, our body aches with the absence of what once was. But slowly, quietly, the truth reveals itself. The very thing we feared losing was the chain holding us down. Think of the times you carried toxic attachments, relationships built on lies, commitments made from fear, grudges you replayed in your mind night after night. They drained you. They caged you. You thought you needed them, but in reality, they were feeding on your peace. The Stoics would remind us, we suffer more from imagination than from reality. Much of our suffering comes not from life itself, but from our refusal to release. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And what is attachment, if not the desperate attempt to control what cannot be controlled? We cling to people, hoping they won't change. We cling to situations, hoping they will last forever. But this is an illusion. Nothing is fixed. People change. Circumstances shift. Even our own bodies, our own minds transform with time. To fight this is to live in chains. To accept it is to live free. Letting go does not mean apathy. It does not mean indifference to love or to life or to those around us. It means we love without possession. We care without demand. We appreciate without clinging. Imagine holding a bird in your hand. If you squeeze it, you suffocate it. If you let it fly, you witness its beauty in the open sky. Love is meant to breathe. Life is meant to flow. The freedom of letting go is not just external, it is internal. When you release attachments, you reclaim your mind. You free up the energy once wasted on replaying old conversations, resenting betrayals, or fearing endings. That energy returns to you, and with it comes clarity. You begin to see the present moment not as something overshadowed by the past or haunted by the future, but as something alive, here, now. Marcus Aurelius put it beautifully. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. The freedom of letting go is precisely this: the power to revoke suffering by withdrawing the energy we've given to what no longer deserves it. Imagine walking with a heavy backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents something you cannot release. A failed friendship, a betrayal, a mistake, a dream that didn't unfold. You've carried it for years. Your back aches, your steps are slow, your breath is shallow. Now, imagine setting it down. For the first time, you walk upright, unburdened. The path ahead looks different, not because it changed, but because you did. That is the freedom of letting go. Not emptiness, not loss, but lightness, a return to the essence of who you are, unshackled by unnecessary weight. One of the hardest truths to accept is this: we control far less than we think. The Stoics built their entire philosophy on this foundation. Epictetus divided life into two categories: the things within our control, our thoughts, our choices, our actions, and the things beyond it, everything else. Yet how often do we spend our days obsessing over the latter? We worry if people like us. We worry about how the world will see us. We worry about outcomes, promotions, relationships, betrayals, the twists and turns of fate. We tell ourselves, if only I could hold everything tightly enough, maybe nothing will slip away. But that is the great illusion. The more we cling, the more fragile everything becomes. Think of water. If you cup it gently, it stays in your palm. If you squeeze it, it slips through your fingers. Life is no different. The more desperately we try to control people or situations, the faster they escape. And in the process, we lose our peace. The Stoics would remind us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is not a suggestion. It is a commandment for freedom. To mistake control over the world as ours is to live enslaved by disappointment. To return control to the only place it belongs, our own mind, is to discover serenity. Imagine this. You plant a seed. You water it, care for it, place it in the sun. You do everything right. But whether it grows into a strong tree or withers away, that is not in your hands. It depends on the soil, the weather, the mysteries of life itself. Your duty is in the effort, not in the outcome. And once you truly accept this, you are free from the torment of what if and why not. Control is an illusion, but choice is real. You cannot control whether someone betrays you, but you can choose whether you will hold resentment or let it pass. You cannot control whether storms strike your life, but you can choose whether you will break or bend. You cannot control how long your body lives, but you can choose how deeply your soul lives while it is here. The tragedy is that most of us spend our entire existence trying to bend the universe to our will, only to discover on our deathbed that the universe was never ours to command. The beauty, however, is that we can realize this truth now and reclaim our life in the present. Marcus Aurelius said, "Constantly reflect on how swiftly all things are swept away and carried off. The river of time is irresistible." What arrogance it is to think we can control the flow of the river. We can only decide how we move within it, whether we thrash and drown or whether we float with grace. And so, the illusion of control is the greatest thief of peace. Letting it go is the greatest gift we can give ourselves. True strength is not forcing the world into our image, but aligning ourselves with the world as it is. This is why the Stoics practiced letting go daily. They rehearsed misfortune. They reminded themselves of death. They embraced impermanence, not out of despair, but out of wisdom. Because once you stop demanding that the world bend to you, you finally learn to bend with it. And that bending, that surrender, is not weakness. It is the unshakable strength of acceptance. Remember this: control the mind, and the world no longer needs to be controlled. If control is the great illusion, then attachment is the chain that binds us to it. We live our lives clutching at people, at objects, at identities, as though holding tighter will keep them from slipping away. But the Stoics warned, every attachment is a potential source of suffering, because everything you hold on to is already borrowed, not owned. Think of this: your relationships, your possessions, your achievements, they are not truly yours. They are temporary companions on the road. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive without arrogance, let go without struggle." But most of us do the opposite. We receive with pride and entitlement, and when the time comes to let go, we claw at the walls of fate like prisoners resisting release. Imagine a traveler carrying a heavy backpack. At first, it seems useful. It contains things he thinks he needs. But as the road grows long, the weight begins to press on his shoulders, to slow his steps, to burn his strength. Eventually, he realizes that much of what he carries is unnecessary, yet still, he refuses to let it go. Why? Because he has confused burden with identity. This is us. We carry old relationships long after they have poisoned our souls. We carry grudges, betrayals, failures, and titles as though they define us. We even carry images of ourselves, who we think we are supposed to be. These attachments weigh us down, chain us to the past, and blind us to the freedom of the present. Seneca warned, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." And much of this unnecessary suffering comes from attachments we cannot release. The fear of losing someone keeps us from ever truly being with them. The fear of losing status keeps us from ever enjoying it. The fear of death keeps us from ever living. But here is the paradox: only by letting go of what you cling to can you actually love it, enjoy it, and experience it fully. When you stop trying to own the moment, you finally taste it. When you stop trying to control people, you finally see them as they are. When you stop grasping at permanence, you finally discover the beauty of impermanence. The Stoics did not call for indifference in the cold sense. They did not say, "Feel nothing." They said, "Be free from chains. Love deeply, but without needing to own. Care deeply, but without the illusion of forever. Walk with people, but do not tie your soul to their footsteps. For one day they will go their own way, and you must not collapse when they do." Attachment says, "If I lose this, I lose myself." Wisdom says, "If I lose this, I remain myself." Think about your own life. What are you carrying that is already gone? A relationship that died long ago? A version of yourself you no longer are? A dream that has expired? The more you carry, the heavier you become. The heavier you become, the harder it is to walk toward freedom. Epictetus would remind us, "Never say of anything, 'I have lost it,' but say, 'I have returned it.' Your loved one, return to nature. Your fortune, return to fortune's wheel. Your health, return to time. Nothing was ever yours to keep, only yours to use, honor, and then let go. The weight of attachments is what breaks the spirit, but the act of releasing, of opening the fist, of setting the weight down, is what makes the soul soar. Let go, and you rise. Cling, and you drown. The choice is yours. Freedom is not found in addition. It is found in subtraction. Not in the things we cling to, but in the things we dare to release. Yet this is the paradox most of humanity cannot face. We mistake our chains for treasures and our burdens for blessings. The Stoics whispered a truth that still terrifies the modern soul. You own nothing. Nothing owns you. Every face you love will vanish. Every place you stand will crumble. Every title you wear will fade. Every possession you grasp will one day belong to dust. Marcus Aurelius did not write his meditations to inspire. He wrote them to survive. He reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Imagine repeating that to yourself every morning, not as poetry, but as a warning. Imagine the weight it removes from trivial worries. But here is the brutal part. To live like this, you must practice death while still alive. You must rehearse loss. You must strip away in your mind everything you cling to until your soul learns what it is to be naked. Seneca would tell his students, rehearse poverty, exile, imprisonment, not because he wanted them to suffer, but because he wanted them to discover that suffering only has power when you resist it. When you can sit with nothing and still be whole, no loss can ever destroy you again. Look at the modern world. People spend their lives in fear. Fear of losing followers, fear of losing money, fear of losing love, fear of losing relevance. This fear shapes their actions, their choices, their very identity. But what happens when the fear comes true? What happens when you lose what you thought you could not live without? Most collapse because they never trained themselves to let go. This is why the Stoic way feels brutal. It is not gentle therapy. It is a warrior's discipline. It is training for the soul. They did not say, ignore your pain. They said, break its hold. They did not say, detach coldly. They said, detach courageously. Picture this, a warrior on the battlefield, surrounded by fire, chaos, and death. His armor is heavy, weighing him down, slowing his strikes, weakening his breath. At last, he strips it off, standing bare, unshielded, but suddenly light, faster, stronger, free. The armor was meant to protect him, but in truth, it was killing him. So too with us. We think attachments protect us from loneliness, from insignificance, from fear. But in truth, they make us heavy. They make us fragile. They make us slaves. The Stoics were not asking us to stop loving, to stop building, to stop living. They were asking us to stop confusing holding with being. Love, but without clinging. Build, but without fearing collapse. Live, but without demanding eternity. And when you finally learn this, when you master the art of release, you become untouchable. What can the world take from a person who has already let go? What can loss do to someone who has practiced loss? What can death threaten in one who has died daily in his mind? This is the brutal freedom, to realize that by letting go, you lose nothing. You gain everything, because you gain yourself. And once you have yourself, your true self, no power, no person, no fate can enslave you again. There comes a point in every life when the illusions collapse, when the people you thought would stay leave, when the plans you thought were secure fail, when the world you thought you could control burns in your hands. And in that collapse, you are faced with the most dangerous question of all. Who are you without what you cling to? This question is not gentle. It is a storm. It does not whisper, it roars. It tears apart the walls of comfort. It drowns out every excuse. It shakes the foundation of your being. Most people run. They drown themselves in distractions. They beg the storm to stop. But the Stoics did the opposite. They stepped into the storm. They let it strike them, break them, test them. because they knew a person who survives the storm is no longer the same. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome, the greatest empire on earth, but he never ruled the storm of life by force. He ruled it by surrender. He understood that storms cannot be stopped. They can only be endured. His words echo across centuries. If it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. If it is unendurable, it will end itself. Do you feel the power in that? The storm loses its teeth when you refuse to fight it. The chaos weakens when you welcome it. The pain shrinks when you accept it. Epictetus, a slave who became a teacher of emperors, learned this truth through chains and whips. He said, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself can overpower my will." Think of that. A man with nothing, no power, no freedom, still stood stronger than kings because he had mastered the storm within. And Seneca, living in wealth but shadowed by death, reminded himself daily that fortune's gifts are fragile. He said, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." In other words, most of our storms are illusions we create. We bleed from wounds that do not exist simply because we cannot let go of imagined futures. Now look at our modern world. A storm rages around us every second. Social media storms, news storms, financial storms, emotional storms. We scroll endlessly, feeding on anxiety, comparing ourselves to ghosts, building castles of insecurity. We are caught in storms not of nature, but of our own making. And every storm whispers the same lie: you are not enough. You must hold on tighter. You must fight harder. You must control more. But control is the greatest illusion. You cannot control the storm. You can only control yourself. This is why the Stoics treated every difficulty as training. Every insult, every betrayal, every failure. It was the battlefield where the soul was tested. They asked, "Will I break like glass, or will I stand like iron?" Imagine a warrior standing on a cliff as thunder cracks the sky. The storm is not his enemy. It is his teacher. Each lightning bolt carves discipline into his bones. Each gust of wind sharpens his focus. Each drop of rain baptizes him into resilience. That is what letting go really means. Not weakness, but power. Not surrendering to chaos, but refusing to be broken by it. When you let go of the need to control the storm, you discover the strength to walk through it untouched. Think of your own storms, the heartbreaks, the failures, the rejections, the betrayals, the moments when you thought you would never rise again. You are still here. Do you see the truth? The storm did not destroy you, it revealed you. And now the storm asks you again, who are you when everything is stripped away? Who are you when the noise fades and only silence remains? Who are you when there is nothing left to cling to? The answer is brutal, but liberating. You are not your losses. You are not your past. You are not the people who left. You are not the storms you endured. You are the one who remains, the witness, the survivor, the unbroken center. And once you realize this, you stop fearing storms, because you understand they do not come to end you, they come to reveal you. So let the storms rage, let the world fall apart, let everything be stripped away, because in the end, what remains is not fragile. What remains is eternal. And that eternal core, your reason, your will, your soul, cannot be touched, cannot be broken, cannot be taken. That is the storm's final lesson. The world can break your body, but it cannot break your essence unless you hand it the weapon. So hold fast, not to people, not to things, not to illusions. Hold fast only to yourself, because once you master that, no storm will ever frighten you again. You thought this was the end. But Stoicism teaches there are no endings, only transformations. The storms you survived were not punishments. They were preparations. The losses you endured were not curses. They were clarifications. The silence you faced was not emptiness. It was your soul demanding to be heard. And now you stand here at the 100th echo, at the final gate, not the same person who began, not the same soul who stumbled through chaos. You are sharper, harder, clearer. The world will still try to break you. The weak will still mock you. The temptations will still whisper. But you have been trained in fire, and fire does not fear sparks. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Understand this. Life will never remove the obstacles. It will multiply them, because you are no longer meant to be sheltered. You are meant to be forged. Every heartbreak carved strength into your chest. Every betrayal etched wisdom into your mind. Every failure baptized you into resilience. And now, at part 100, the prophecy is complete. You are no longer glass. You are iron. You are no longer chasing peace. You are peace itself. The world cannot take this from you, not money, not enemies, not death itself, because you have mastered the only kingdom that matters, the kingdom within. So let this be written across the walls of your mind. You are unshakable. You are unstoppable. You are eternal. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Carry the fire forward. The world needs more Stoics.